Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started with our next session, which is entitled In the Beginning, the Creation of an OER Hebrew Language Minor. Our speakers are both, our speakers, Adi Ras from University of Michigan and Renana Schneller, University of Minnesota. So you both are now co-hosts, so I will turn things over to you.
Thanks, Carl. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So our presentation is all about Hebrew open educational resources. Okay. So this project was a collaboration between MSU and the Mellon Foundation and the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And it was based on best practices for materials for lictals across the Big Ten. Now, the main thing is that less commonly taught languages are hard, unlike other languages like French or German, which have open resources. Hebrew does not have many of them. There are very, very few. And this project is a whole course, several whole courses all together, whereas in other open language resources that are on the internet right now, there are only bits and pieces of it. So this project, the whole project, the MSU and the Mellon Foundation and the Big Ten Academic Alliance have 4 languages, which is Hindi, Hebrew, Portuguese, and Swahili. And over the last couple of years, I don't know how to say the name and I don't want to butcher it, another Native American language was added to it. Okay, so the issue with the Hebrew language instruction is there are a few of them. First of all, there are not enough qualified instructors around. It's not something that people are doing. People who are teaching Hebrew oftentimes are just speakers of the language. Therefore, they don't have any knowledge of how to teach the language. The stuff that's out there is not based on ACTFL, and especially the stuff that comes from Israel. They have their own thing. They don't regard ACTFL as a thing, and they don't really use it to base their materials on. And we can see sometimes things like advanced high materials or superior materials being used for novice high students, which is very challenging for students. And many of these materials are using the grammar-based approach and not with use of authentic materials. So that's another issue for us here in the United States. And the theoretical framework of this project was content-based instructions. All of our courses are based on content-based instruction, and it encourages students to master foreign languages while engaging in conversation about ethical issues pertaining to content that they discuss in their non-language classes, which they find really interesting because they find this authentic. Okay, so the materials we wrote as part of this project, which was myself, Renana Schneller, and we had a third person, Avital Karpman from the University of Maryland. We wrote 4 full courses, which included the following topics: innovation and entrepreneurship, gender and identity in Israeli culture, ethics, religion, and medicine, and multicultural Israel. Now, all these materials with links to the authentic materials, podcasts, and newspaper articles are fully online, which we'll show you in a bit on the MSU website. So everything is there for anyone to take parts of it, to take a whole course and teach it as a whole. So the materials are out there for you guys. And how were they structured? So the first thing was we wanted to create a schemata for students. So we had previewing questions, 1 or 2 questions about the topic discussed in very general ways. Then we showed a video clip from Israeli television, a newspaper article, or a podcast, which they also heard. These materials were for the intermediate, mid, advanced, low students. If we did use a podcast, we had transcription with it, so they can follow, not just listen, which was pretty hard. Then we gave the new vocabulary, like a small dictionary, lexicon. They also had questions for understanding, and afterwards discussion questions in class. All of these things were given ahead of time because we use a flipped classroom approach where students see everything ahead of time and then they're able to use it in the classroom. Renana?
Yes, I'll continue. Hi, everyone, Renana Schneller. I'll talk about assessment part, and following ACTFL, I would like to explain how we assess these courses. And first, I would like to explain how we use the interpretive mode. So as Adi said, the material was podcasts or written press, or what I will discuss a little at length here, well, not too long, clips taken from the Israeli TV. We had to limit ourselves to clips from TV that are maximum 15 minutes long, and they will have Hebrew subtitles so that students will be able to view and to listen and to read at the same time. So all these will help all those, there will be reading and viewing and listening involved. They had to be entirely in Hebrew. We provided scaffolding by providing what Adi talked about, questions following the events in the clip. So students will be able to look at the question and expect to have this in the clip. And some vocabulary was translated to English. We gave a list of new vocabulary words. Adi.
Yeah.
A presentational mode. Students had to post a comment in the discussion board in Hebrew when they prepare for the next class. Students commented on each other's posts, of course. Midterm presentation. Students prepared short presentation, 10 minutes plus 5 minutes Q&A, in which they delve into one of the topics discussed in the course. And then the final presentation, students prepare a presentation a little longer about the topic related to the topics discussed in class. So all these are in the presentational mode. In the interpersonal mode, there were classroom discussions, checking knowledge about the topic in general, and then questions following the events in the clip, and then thought-provoking questions and questions about opinions. Students shared their opinions in class. Student responses were very, very positive. They thought this was valuable information. It was relevant to their lives. Students who came for various majors found it very interesting to talk about innovations, and to talk those from Jewish studies majors who were happy to discuss all kinds of issues pertaining to the place of religion in one of those courses that we presented. They were able to understand real life and news. It was hard at first, but then they were able to do it and felt very accomplished. There were challenges. And the challenges, well, number one, using live links, talking about copyrights. We could not copy or save any of those clips. And some TV channels in Israel do not allow access outside of Israel. So when we watched it, but then afterwards we weren't able to find it after. and some of the links disappear. And then to find appropriate clips that are really maximum 15 minutes and not a whole hour, and that will have subtitles. What they broadcasted in the middle of the week sometimes did not have subtitles. So we had to resort to what they do on a weekend. They probably have more time to work on that. And heterogeneous classes. In Minnesota, have a group of students who are over 62. So whatever they're interested in is not what 18-year-olds are interested in. That's number one. Number two, there were some matters that were sensitive. Some of them were religious, others were secular. So some religious people found it hard to discuss things that are about ethics. And I had people from various religions. That proved to be a little bit difficult in multicultural Israel. Adi?
Let us show you the website. If you go to the Michigan State University website for this, all the Hebrew courses are here. Two of these courses even have a Canvas shell that can be used. And after that, students are, teachers, you can take whatever you want and not want out of it. Use just one class, use just, one topic if you want, a whole week or a full course.
Thank you, everyone. We are now open for questions.
Okay, thank you so much.
Could you stop sharing, Adi? So we'll see faces. Thank you.
The first question is about your approach, the content-based approach. It says the themes are really great, but what is the anticipated proficiency level of your learners, and what are your proficiency goals for the course? Just, I guess, trying to get an idea of what level, who you're teaching.
So my students are a little different than Renana's students. I have a lot of students that come in with a lot of background knowledge of Hebrew. And I have students that begin from zero, but usually in these courses, I have more proficient students. The goal for us is to have students be able to open the television, open the radio in Israel, be able to understand full authentic materials, be able to function within the language, and be able to speak. Renana, you have different goals for your students?
Yes. My students are not, University of Minnesota does not have the same population like University of Michigan in terms of students who take Hebrew. Students in my class are usually students who started with me at the beginner's level. And these students are in many cases students who have Israeli parents or who have gone to Hebrew schools. So I need to provide more scaffolding. In terms of ACTFL, we have the same goal. But for me, I have to provide more scaffolding. These students sometimes don't need that scaffolding.
That's interesting. I think one of the things that I'm just thinking of the first talk on Italian that was created by a group of faculty at the same college, Muhlenberg College. This is quite different in that it looks like it's a consortium. So you're at different universities. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about how that was like, because it seems a little bit complicated when you're working at different places. How did you organize your collaboration?
Oh, our collaboration worked so well, so well. We shared, we have course share students. Some of my students, since I'm a sole practitioner for modern Hebrew in Minnesota, some of my students take classes with Adi in Michigan. So it worked very well on various levels. Yeah, we put our ego aside, Adi and myself, and we help each other. and it has been working very well, and this is how we're going to work in the future as well. In terms of universities, it worked well as Big Ten. They we send students to one another, and it works well too.
And eventually, this will become a Hebrew minor for the Big Ten. So universities outside of the, we in University of Michigan, we have 17% Jewish population. Our numbers are strong, but there are other universities like Iowa or Nebraska which don't offer Hebrew at all. Eventually, they will be able to have a Hebrew minor coming to us through CourseShare and we'll be using these courses.
And I already have students from other universities in the Big Ten taking my classes. And from Iowa, I have from Illinois, and Adi has from other universities as well in the Big Ten.
Rutgers, Illinois, yeah.
Well,
so I'm wondering, the Big Ten has this notion, has CourseShare, as you keep referring to it. You already had an infrastructure in place to work together in a kind of a collaborative fashion.
Yes.
And I think it's great because more and more universities are turning towards this notion of course sharing, and that OER seems to fit nicely with the idea of course sharing too. So these things kind of go together. So hopefully what you are exemplifying here will kind of be a trend that we'll see more of this.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I can see how, particularly as you said, Adi, at the beginning, OER is so important for lictals. It makes so much sense for lictals since you don't have the materials commercially available. So pooling your resources like this just makes so much sense.
And we have to thank the University of MSU, and we have to thank the Mellon Foundation for doing this for us.
Yes.
Otherwise, we don't have the resources and the money to bring this thing together.
That's a very important point. And then the last question here before we move on to then get ready for our next session is about tenure and promotion at your university. And of course, OER constitutes a category of materials, pedagogical materials. The question is, does this count for tenure and promotion?
I'm on a non-tenure track line. Most of the people who teach Hebrew are non-tenure track, but it does give me a lot of brownie points. So, yeah.
Okay.
Same with me. I'm not on tenure track. I'm a senior lecturer. So, yeah, I wish there was a conversation about tenure related to that, but we don't have lines.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much. Terrific, another wonderful project, and just good luck to you. Continued good luck. It's a wonderful project.